My presentation is on the sculptor Felix de Weldon. Early life. He was born April 7th, 1907 and died June 3, 2003. He was born and raised in Vienna, Austria, and he graduated from the University of Vienna's Creative Arts and School of Architecture with a master's in 1927 and a PhD in 1929. He studied ancient and modern art around Europe, which included Florence, Rome, Paris, Madrid, before he eventually settled in London. In London, he established an art studio where he held a one-man gallery, and this gallery is where he received the commission to create a bust of King George V, and as a result of his work, he was given the title of Knight, and during the remainder of his time in London, he mostly focused on busts of royalty. Adulthood. Moving into his adulthood, he continued creating pieces and was commissioned to do a bust of the Prime Minister Mackenzie King, who was the Prime Minister of Canada. And after this piece, he took a 6-week tour around America in a Rolls-Royce convertible. After this 6-week tour of the country, he decided he wanted to move to America and did so in 1937 and became an American citizen in 1945. Once becoming a citizen, he enlisted in the Navy during World War II and was a combat artist who was stationed in Maryland. In 1951, he bought a 12-acre estate in Newport, Rhode Island named the Beacon Rock Estate, and he resided there till the end of his life with his wife and 2 sons, and he continued creating pieces until the end of his life in 2003 and was eventually buried in the Arlington National Cemetery. Moving forward to some highlights of his career, he was often called the last great master of sculpture, and he first tasted fame in 1924 when he created a monument in honor of the work President Hoover did for the children's relief in Europe after World War II, and once completed in 1927, he received worldwide recognition. He was on the U.S. Commissions of Fine Arts for 5 terms, which included President Harry Truman, President Dwight Eisenhower, and President John F. Kennedy. He did an array of royal busts and then moved to America, where he completed the majority of his works across his lifetime. Moving into our first piece I chose to analyze is by far Weldon's most famous piece. Weldon began work on this massive statue in 1945 after seeing Joe Rosenthal's picture of the historic event. He began working on this project in 1945, and it took 9 years to fully complete. Once completed, the project weighed over 100 tons, mostly because it is a completely bronze statue, and bronze was the typical choice of material for the statues de Weldon created. These statues are created by first assembling a to-scale plaster of the piece before then casting it in bronze, and the plasters alone take years to create. This plaster of the Marine Corps War Memorial took 3 years to finish. So, moving into the actual sculpture, there are 5 real-life United States Marines who fought for this country, and in the piece, they are raising the American flag on the Japanese island of Iwo Jima. And I am amazed by the attention of detail de Weldon put into the piece, because the Marines and their uniforms look so realistic, and this detail further impresses me because of the sheer size of the memorial. This piece will have a lasting impact on America and is symbolic for the courage it has taken every U.S. Marine to protect our freedom. The next piece we have is the Simon Bolivar Monument. This statue was authorized by Congress in the summer of 1949 and was installed in 1955. The sculpture weighs 8 tons and is made of iron on a granite base. The feature that stuck out most to me in this piece is the head of the horse, because of how proportional it is to Simon Boulevard and how detailed Weldon made the horse's face. And the way Weldon created the horse's body makes it seem as though it's about to run off the base of the statue, and this is just shows how realistic the Weldon could make pieces look. After admiring many of his pieces, I find it fitting that the sculptures are cast in bronze or iron, because it is durable and it can stand the test of time. In my opinion, this material is symbolic for the people who are represented and how they all have lasting legacies on society. Moving into our next piece, we have the Harry S. Truman Monument, and this sculpture was gifted to Greece by Greek Americans and was unveiled in 1963 among a crowd of 20,000 people. Since then, the statue has been the victim of protesters. The statue has been defaced and vandalized multiple times since it debuted in 1963. The statue is considered a sign of American imperialism and has been vandalized by Greek citizens who have resentment for the United States. The piece stands over 12 feet tall and is made out of bronze. The size of the sculpture shows Weldon's ability to retain detail and dimension when creating large pieces. My favorite part of this piece is Truman's dress pants. I think Weldon did a nice job of making them seem real with how he texturized the wrinkles. Next, we have the George Washington bust. It was created in 1945 and is 21 by 21 inches. There is believed to be 4 or 5 castings of this piece in bronze, and they are spread out among the country. It is kind of hard to see in the picture below, but the shirt of Washington is textured by having little dimples across its entirety. I think this helps bring the piece together, and the smoothness of Washington's face stands out against the texture of his hair and shirt. The ruffled effect added to Washington's undershirt also helps to add depth and dimension to the piece. Next, we have the George Bannerman Dealey statue, and this statue was unveiled in 1949 and is a piece that pays tribute to the life and legacy of George Bannerman Dealey. The plaza where the statue is placed became infamous after it became the site where President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. George Bannerman Dealey was a famous Texas businessman, and after his death in 1946, Felix Weldon created the piece in his honor. This is another large piece created by Weldon, as the statue is over 12 feet tall. On the surface, this piece is similar to others created by Weldon because it is made out of bronze and rests on a granite base. However, this piece is actually quite unique because within it there is a metal box that holds written documents pertaining to Bannerman's life, which I think is just a fun little detail that was added that kind of made this statue stick out compared to some of his others. And besides catching the eye of people by its sheer size, my favorite feature of this piece is the figure suit jacket, as it flows off Bannerman without distracting the viewer from the figure's face. Moving into the next sculpture, we have the Ty Cobb statue. This piece is in memory of American professional baseball player Ty Cobb. The statue was completed in 1977 and was placed outside of the Atlanta Braves Stadium until they left in 2017. The statue was then placed in the hometown of Cobb. This piece is also made out of bronze and depicts 2 figures, one fielding a ball and the other sliding into a base. I find this piece to be interesting because the figure of Cobb sliding into the base seems to kind of float above the ground. And this is just a trick on the eyes, however, because the statue is actually putting some of its weight onto the figure behind its forearms. And this small design decision by Felix Weldon helps to bring the piece to life and is just another example of how Felix de Weldon was able to capture the viewer's eye. The last piece I have, or one of the last pieces I have, is the CB Memorial. This is a memorial dedicated to the Naval Construction Battalions and was placed in its permanent exhibition in 1972. These battalions have been nicknamed the Seabees, and they have been responsible for building roads, airstrips, and other pieces of infrastructure since World War II. The piece has a 9-foot Seabee greeting a 3-foot tall child as the forefront of the memorial. Behind the figures is a bronze relief depicting various Seabees carrying out their duty. The piece is primarily bronze, and the sculptures are supported by Swedish granite bases. I think this piece shows the versatility Weldon possessed, as he is able to switch from large-scale realistic human figures to large mosaic-like backdrops which all possess detail. The military memorials Weldon created have a strong and bold aura to them, and because of this, I believe the memorials will be permanent fixtures of which countless Americans will continue to show their gratitude for our veterans. The last piece I will show you is the Mother Joseph statue. This statue of Mother Joseph was finished and placed permanently at the Capitol Visitor Center in Washington, D.C. in 1980. Mother Joseph was a humanitarian who for 46 years served underprivileged individuals and was responsible for founding healthcare, education, and social service institutions across the country. This bronze piece depicts Mother Joseph in a praying position, which represents the Christian life she led. I think the bonnet de Weldon chose to create on her helps to bring out the facial features, which are sharper and more structured. The flowing dress worn by Mother Joseph is brought to life by the texture and the ripples and the wrinkles as the dress flows to the base of the sculpture. I also think the hands are a powerful part of the sculpture and draw the viewer's eyes down towards her cross necklace. Thank you for listening to this presentation on the last great master sculptor, Felix de Weldon. Thank you.